How you guys doing? Hi, 911. Tony, good to see you. Allie? Well, I was thinking, well, what do we tell a novice watch collector? So look, you know, whatever you do, don't do this, avoid this. What would it be for you? Let's hear some ideas. I've got lots of them, but I want to hear yours first. What's going on? Ah, oh, hey, thanks, Sally. That I need to know. Yesterday, I was out shoveling snow. Today, I was we had to go through this icy stuff to the grocery store, so I've been trying to get as active as possible. I'd counsel a novice to decide what kind of collector he thinks he will ultimately become. That's an interesting thing. Yeah, boy, I tell you, that's a heavy duty one. Yeah, happy New Year to everybody. Um, Yeah, I mean, that's really almost philosophical, I suppose. What do you want to be? I don't know. But I I would what I would suggest, one of the things I would suggest, and I know this may sound a lot of people wouldn't want that, I suppose. I would tell them, don't take advice from people selling watches. Period. Because they're gonna by and large will probably tell you something about watches they're selling. I mean, if you're gonna buy a car, you wouldn't go ask somebody at a Ford dealer, should I buy a Chevrolet, or somebody at a Jaguar dealer to should you buy a Mercedes. I mean, you just don't do that and expect to get a straight answer. Um, you wouldn't go to a BMW dealer and say, "Hey, should I get a Lexus or not?" They're not going to give you the straight answer. So that would be my first thing. I said, I would. There are a lot of people selling watches, and there's certain things I suppose they could tell you, but I just not a thing. The other thing I would say is that there are a lot of pundits online, myself included. I would say don't listen to any one of them. Listen to a lot of different people, read a lot of different things. I think in this day of the internet, unfortunately, I suppose, too many people will listen to people who sort of have a certain line of chatter, so to speak. Okay, that's enough out of me. Let's see what else you got. Um, don't listen to influences that they try to sell you. Yeah, do your own research. That's a good one, Allie. Will he collect a number of inexpensive watches with high style, or focus on a slowly built collection beginning with expensive ones he will value for the long term? That's a yeah. Another thing too, you'd probably want to say, realistically, what there is. I don't know if there's anything to be realistic. I tell you, because I think watch collection is not the most realistic endeavor that any of us have. Hey, Washington, how's it going? Happy New Year to you, TT Lever. Go slow. Oh yeah, Tony, that is good advice. Go slow. Hey, Kevin. Happy New Year to you too. I will tell you that I have many more watches than I had predicted. Yeah, me too. Way too many more. I never predicted that though. I didn't think. I should have known from everything else I've done. I tend to go overboard on everything. I don't think I've had a hobby or anything else I've done that I haven't sort of d dived into the deep end somehow. Be wary of vintage watches until you know what you're looking for. That is a very good idea, football fan. Vintages the vin thing about vintage watches, they're very tempting because you can get some valuable and I don't know if valuable is the right word, but some high status watches, for example. The first watch that I bought really as a going into collection was a Patek Philippe, and it turned out okay. I got a good price on it. I sold it for a good price. I mean, everything about it just about worked out, but um, I had no idea who I was buying it from. Somebody in Houston. They they didn't seem to have too many watches. I didn't, like I said, I didn't know what I was doing, but I wanted to get a Patek Philippe, and I this one seemed to be a good one, a Calatrava, and I was able. Years later, I sold it, but it was one I didn't wear it very much because it wasn't uh, sort of an everyday watch. What became an everyday watch was a Vacheron Constantin overseas. Now this was the OS one, and I love that watch. I mean, that's a funny thing. I don't think I've had a watch since then that I've worn so much. The problem is, as I got all of these watches I really like, and I like to wear them all, but I only get to wear them a little, a few of them at a time. This one is my Vacheron Constantin 1921. I love that watch, but you know, it's it goes through rotation. There's certain watches I look forward to putting on. My Monégasque, the Roger Dubuis Monégasque, something about that watch I really like. Always like my FP Journe Chronomètre Souverain. Those watches I enjoy wearing. There are a couple watches that I have that I'm probably hanging on to for partially the wrong reasons, but partially the very right reasons too, and I'm trying to figure out. So, I mean, there's the more watches you have, the more confused you can get about it. Serac 49, is that right? Okay, try to stay away from micro brands. Go slow and start with larger brands that you can try on and see if you like them. Tissot, Hamilton, Baumet Mercier, Seiko. Uh, yeah, I think, hmm, I there I would say I would try to steer away people from watches without regulators, okay? They get a watch with a working regulator. I know that there's another way of putting that, but I'll put it that way so that people won't accuse me of talking too much about a certain something from the table of elements. Hey, Von Cruel, how you doing? Today I wear my Alpha Star Timer, Alpina Star Timer, fantastic legibility. Von Cruel, I had an Alpina and I gifted it to my brother, and he really liked it. And I That's one of those watches I think that very underrated watch, good watch too. The most sane advice would be to not get into this addiction because the prices keep going up. Oh, I don't know. You're right, but I mean, and miss all the fun. What that's another thing too. I think if you're not enjoying it, if you're not having fun, why do it? And it's sort of a creeping thing. The more you do it, the more it sort of gets under your skin and empties your wallet both at the same time. After selling about 20 watches, I decided on 1 to 4K as my price range. Um, I like that, if you set a price range, that's another thing I would suggest, don't buy something that is gonna, put you in the hole, thinking that you can turn around and sell it and make money. Maybe you can, but, maybe you can't, and selling a watch is can be, dicier than you think. Sometimes if you know what you're doing, and then it's one thing, but boy, I tell you, if you're new at it, another thing I would suggest, don't buy a watch at an auction, especially one of the big ones, because if you do, you're gonna be hit with a 25 percent premium. I hate using that term. What it is it's basically a fee for that you pay the people for having the auction. So that would be another one. Don't buy it at an auction. Sell at an auction. Boy, yeah, you can do very well. I've done quite well selling at auctions, but buying them, you have to be very fortunate. Some companies, some auction companies are better than others. The really high end ones, though, you pay a lot to play in that sort of that arena, so to speak. But other ones like Bezel seems to have a pretty good auction that the buyer doesn't have to pay some premium on, or at least it's not very much. The same thing with Katawiki, I think is the name of it. That's another one that's not real expensive, but for the most part, people can get carried away at auctions too. Jeff, don't chase every color or complication. Figure out your best size and try to stick to it. Good advice. I think that's really good advice. Not the one I would take because I don't have a brain in my head when it comes to certain things, but it is good advice. Yeah, Von Cruel Citizen's an interesting brand. The Alpina you had is owned by Citizen too. Buy used. Um, that's an interesting thing. Most of my watches, the best deals I have on watches, I have not bought used, but I bought unworn. Um, and I think if you can find a high quality watch that is not popular and not pushing the price up on, those to me are where you get more value for your money. For the most part, though, used watches, I've had pretty good luck with used watches. The this one I got, eventually it gave up the ghost and fell apart, but that was probably as much as me as it was the watch. But yeah, I think buying pre-owned watches is you can save a lot of money, but sometimes you can't. This is one of the problems with Rolexes, and if you own a Rolex, you can probably sell it for very much about what you paid for it in the first place. I mean, they retain their price a great deal. On the other hand, why buy one? Uh, why buy one used if the same for the same price you can get a brand new one? Sort of a funny kind of thing is that I know that some people they ask about that. They say, "Does it retain its value?" Well, of course it retain. There's not the value never changes. Only the price changes. Um, I've had watches that the price just went insane on, and turned out to be way more than I'd ever expect. By and large, another thing I'd warn people against: don't buy a watch as an investment. The same is true. The same advice was true to people who are into art. Don't buy art you don't want to hang on your wall and look at. You've got to buy art you can enjoy. Uh, Down the road somewhere, you may want to sell it. But if you have it sort of sitting in your case the whole time, I mean, what's the point of that? It's not like it. In the one hand, it's like art, but on the other hand, it's not. Um, Art you don't wear every day, ever. As a matter of fact, you put on your wall and you enjoy looking at it or not. But if you buy a painting or artwork as an investment, you got something ugly to look at or something not pleasing to look at. By the same token, your watches, you don't want to have a watch. You don't want to, I wouldn't anyway. I mean, have it sit in your case in the hopes that you're going to make money on the thing. Maybe you will, but I wouldn't advise that at all. Patience can pay off always. It's sort of a double-edged sword. Um, Go pre-owned after your third watch. Okay. Uh, don't buy a watch when a new model is released. Wait until the hype dies down to buy a pre-owned. That is a good idea. I think that is uh, CT lover. I think that's a good that is good piece of advice. I've seen people, man, I tell you, a certain crowd enjoyed brands. People, I mean, are sort of lining up, to get the first or newest one. There are people who are sort of crazy about Apple products. I happen to like them a great deal too, but I wouldn't stand in line to get the newest iPhone or computer or anything else. But just sort of wait around. I think it's a good idea to wait until the hubbub settled down. Also, too, something brand new. A lot of times they can say, "Oh, well, we found this in it, we found that in it." Let somebody else make a mistake. With watches, yeah, there's some people though they're waiting for it with bated breath. Yeah, Alpina and who else with it? Alpina and Frederick Constant were sort of somehow paired together somehow, and they both ended up with Citizen. Crew, you're right. I A collector with unusual taste. I think a collector who has spends the most time learning about watches, they don't care about what everybody else wants. There's certain things they want, and they know what they're looking for, and, in time, they'll know where to find them. And also, too, patience plays, I think, a huge role in this. Um, so I think that's another good point. What is a good way to sell an FP Journe? I'll tell you right that I can tell you right away. Contact Phillips, Phillips Auctions, and, when I sold my, Resonance, my FP Journe Resonance watch. Man, they sent a rep up to New Haven from New York City. I said, I'll meet you, not exactly halfway. I drove down to New Haven, and we met at turned out to be sort of a cheesy restaurant. I mean, it was like, it was a, I was, the only reason I go to New Haven is catch a Metro North to go into New York City. And I don't, going into the city is just, it's about a 3-hour trek for me. And I didn't feel like doing that. And then another 3 hours coming home. So, but I said I'd meet you halfway. Man, they were very anxious. So if you get an FP Journe, you want to sell it, go to an auction to sell it, not to buy it, but to sell it. Mine did quite well. They also, boy, I tell you, they know to the nickel what your watch is likely to sell for, and they certainly did with mine. And I came away extremely happy. So if you have an FP Journe you want to sell, or any really high-end watch, I would go to the top. You also Christie's and what's the other big one that they have? Go to one of the big houses. See, Phillips, Christie's, and Sotheby's. Those three. Though any one of those three, I think you'll do pretty well at. Well, you don't ever buy Apple products. That's okay. Oh yeah, you're into programming. I knew programmers. Let's not do that, okay, Von Cruel. Get into a couple programmer arguments. Um, all right. So what else would advice to help a novice not sort of take a disastrous path? I think the hardest thing to do is some of the things you mentioned. Uh, Spending time learning stuff. That would be one thing. I think the more you learn, the better off you're going to be. Then you can start making your own decisions rather than relying on either on pundits or anything else. On books, I mean, if you if you really read the entire book of George Daniels' watchmaking, you'd probably want to get a key wound watch or something like that. I don't know. The I know another thing that can help, and I use this a lot. I discovered a lot. I spent a lot of time. In fact, I made up even before they did it, before the GPHG had this list of all the winners and all of everything else. I did it and I sent it to them because I wanted to keep track of things. And I was there's certain patterns that I was able to notice among who was winning, who wasn't winning, what they were looking for, what had horological value, what had popular value, what had financial value, and they're not all the same. Sometimes the one that I think we all want is something that has very high horological value and very low price. That's sort of the sweetest of all sweet spots. So that's sort of finding the elephant's graveyard kind of watch looking for. If you're really into the hobby, then you enjoy learning about it and you accumulate knowledge. You're absolutely right. I think that um, there's a point where if you see Watt's collection sort of in one dimension, I don't think you're going to have as much fun as you would in sort of going in deeper and deeper, not in necessarily in your collection, but in terms of what can be done and what has been done. Watches I know I'll never be able to afford, I really, really enjoy learning about, such as Gerbail-Forsey. Those watches, Letter, some of the other guys, unless I hit the lottery or something, which I don't expect to do, even though everybody hopes to. But it's you might as well, you know, throw your money away as expect to win a lottery. Oh, I've seen here. Mm. Okie doke. What else you guys have? You have a lot of good stuff today. Yeah, learn more before buying, John. I agree. I'd advise a novice not to crazy buying sports watches. Great advice. That's very good advice. I I, I think it's good advice because I only have a couple watches that would be considered sports watches, and prop, and only then with a sort of with begrudgingly. I perhaps have too many dress watches, but I happen to like dress watches. So, you know, what can I say? I think too, certain watches are in name only. All right, let me illustrate. Divers. I would never ever take a Submariner into a swimming pool. Okay, yeah, I know that a I know for sure that they'd probably do fine, but you're talking about a $10,000 watch, and you're gonna go into a swimming pool with that, even though it says yes, it's not a problem to do that. I wouldn't do it. So if you the more you learn about like divers is simply a style. And I think the best thing about that you can go so many atmospheres down is because that will further increase the we'll call it dust proofing if you want to. The problem with that is that usually that increases the sealing material. You got to have some really strongly sealed. I know that Rolex, they name everything after that, the Oyster Perpetual as a watch, but other watches, you're going to need a pretty fat gasket that you may not want for other reasons. So, I looking at it that way, a diver to me, like if I ever had a hankering for the ones I like Doxes, but if I had a hankering, for example, for something like a Submariner, I don't think I'd want it because I had plans on going into the ocean with it or something, but rather sort of the style. Explore different strap options with the same watch. That's a great idea. Yeah, you want to save some money, you want a different watch, new strap, new watch. I agree with that. Let me see if I got. Yeah, now see this one, I got the strap that came with a watch. Um Several of my other watches, so I just like to, every now and then change a strap, like have a winter strap, a summer strap, or a bracelet. You can put a bracelet on. Yeah, I agree with that. That you can have a lot of fun with one watch with all these different straps. Not only will you save money, if you happen to like a watch a lot, but you sort of get tired of wearing the same old strap, then change it. I put my bracelet was on my Moritz Grossmann, and I changed it over to my Larique Etude number 2, and it changed both watches. One, I went back to the original on my Moritz. They had a really nice black leather with green stitching that went with the color scheme of the dial, And then on my other one, it just totally transformed sort of the character of it. So yeah, that's a great idea. You prefer dress watches. Is that CRT lever? It's hard to no. I'll call you Mr. M. Prefer dress watches. Same here. I happen to like them, but I also like 'em other kinds, sort of. You know what? There's a kind of watch I like that is, I guess I call them office watches. These are watches that you could wear every day to work. They're not too fancy, but they're classy and dun, 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 dun. This this watch is, to me, is a nice office watch. I can wear it all the time. I don't have to feel, um, you know, anything special. John, I agree with that too. I've learned a lot from you guys. I probably learned more than you have from me. No, I agree. The whole thing, having a discussion group. This was the purpose that I've set up Watch Art Sci as well as the High Horology Lounge. Both places, I just, let's someone to talk to, and it's really funny. Some groups like the Oklahoma group, I don't know how they do it, but man, I tell you, those guys have great meetings and they come from all over the place. That's a great big state. Here we are in a little bitty state, and and my neighbors. There's a couple of us who two people. That's not much of a group. We meet every Thursday, but I've been trying to get more people. They're working or they're busy or doing one thing or the other. But I think, and so this way, not only can we talk to people locally, we can do it internationally and learn a whole bunch of stuff, I think. Anyway, well, listen, guys, speaking of time and everything. Oh, Mr. M is fine. Okay. Oh, Mark. Okay, that's easy. I'll just call you Mark. Mark. Um, Part of the hunt and eBay auction on lower end stuff can be a good place to learn prices that may score. Yeah, Jeff, I agree. I got one of my first watches on an eBay auction. The watch I got, I thought was the best watch in the world, and it was really one of my first somewhat expensive lessons in somebody's has a really good brand name, a great history to it, and they put in a cheap movement and learned the hard way that way. Anyway, guys, listen, I got to run. I don't want to get in trouble. Anyhow, um, have a great. Oh yeah, this is our first one of 2026, our first afternoon one. We had one this morning. So anyway, happy watch collection. Take care.